We all know how to ride in nice sunny days, but what about if the weather changes to cold, rain, or everything at the same time? In this video, I'm gonna share my thoughts about it. So if you have nothing to do, grab your favorite drink and stay with me. The idea of this video actually came from an accident involving a friend of mine. He's a guy with a lot of experience, but even so, on the weather like this, he slipped on the road and broke his ankle. Was this preventable? Well, we cannot predict or prevent everything, but we can always minimize the risk. Remember, just because you have some experience does not automatically mean that you will never crash. In fact, most of the accidents are happened when you believe to yourself way too much, or when you believe that you have enough skills and nothing to worry about it. If you're a newbie rider, you'll be very careful in every situation that you can meet, but when you gain some experience, all of this is changing. Even if you believe that this information is not for you, my advice will be watch it until the end, because it is a good reminder what we should and what we shouldn't do on the weather like this. The first thing that I do in the weathers like this is to check the actual weather forecast. For that purpose, I use one app that is very popular and free, Weather and Radar. It has this option to show you where exactly the rain will go in the next 24 hours. It is very important to me while I ride, based on my location, to know what will be the situation in the next few hours or few days. For example, I know that I will have some rain today, here and there, but nothing significant. I can see that the temperature at the moment is 11 degrees in the air, but on the asphalt it's always a 3 degrees below. So it's probably 7 or 8 on the asphalt. This basically means that everything is gonna be slippery, especially if you have dual sport tires like I have at the moment. They don't provide the same traction, even though I love them because this is the perfect compromise that I can have while I travel. They cannot provide the same traction that you will have with the normal street tires. Always check your tire pressure before you go, especially in the weather like this. For example, on this tire configuration, in this type of weather, I use something around 2 bars. Usually I ride 2.2 on the front and 2.3 on the rear, but on the weather like this I prefer to have a little bit softer tires. Not that soft, but also not very hard, something like 2.5, because the harder they are, the worse is going to be the actual traction with this type of road conditions. Let me now jump on the bike and ride one specific road to tell you a few more things that you have to be careful. Because as I said, everything changed when the weather changed. Usually on the good weather, it will be a pleasure to ride on roads like this, but now at the moment all of these wet leaves make everything so slippery. Even if I go to the main road where the leaves are not so many, there will be still some here and there, and because of the road condition or the temperature of the asphalt, it will be very dangerous when you ride it. One of the things that you have to do immediately is to reduce your leaning angle. If you usually tilt the motorcycle to have this or that corner in a certain speed, on this type of road and weather conditions, you have to slow it a lot, significantly, or reduce it significantly. Let me show you here one example that is happened a few months ago. Have a look at this protection here that is made for the cars. A few months ago we had a part of international rally here in this section, and even though it was not that cold, the car that was coming from down over there came on very high speed, and because of the condition of the asphalt is not so good and it was not a hot day, actually the car missed the corner, went over these bars here and actually killed one person and injured a few more. Even though the car is with 4 very special tires, he still lost the control or the traction. With a motorcycle, to lose traction here is way more easier. That's why you have to be very careful and always reduce your leaning angle. Another thing that you have to be aware of is the condition of your suspension. If the suspension for some reason is not good, if it does not react properly, make sure that you fix it before you start riding in this type of weather conditions, because it might sound something like it's not so important to you, but from the suspension depends the traction that the tires will have with the road. So if the suspension is working badly, you're not gonna have the same traction. If you don't have traction, you're losing everything, because on the motorcycle one of the most important factors that you have to be careful is the traction. No traction does mean you're going down. Another thing that I have heard many times from experienced riders is that they don't use the rear brake. Why? Why the motorcycle is built with 2 brakes if you never use once? It is true that 85% of the stopping power is located on the front brakes, but this does not mean that you shouldn't touch the rear. Rear work as an anchor. So when you stop braking your motorcycle going down and your rear is already very light, and when you press the rear brake you stabilize the motorcycle and you have a much better possibility to stop much faster and everything to be under control. Another one also very important moment that you have to be careful is to dress properly for the weather. If it's too cold, make sure that you have enough clothes to help you ride in comfort, because if you're shivering all the time, you will try to find a body position that will minimize the cold, and when you don't have the proper position to ride, or you try to find any position but not the comfortable one just to protect yourself from the cold, you're gonna make some mistakes, because for example, your body, your hands or your legs are not going to be on the proper places. That's why always dress properly. If you need to put a few more layers, do it. Be careful with all of these road marks, the lines that the road has, especially in Eastern Europe, especially in Bulgaria and Romania. They are not the same quality that you can find around Western Europe. In Germany or in Switzerland, for example, even if you write on the marks, they have some kind of abrasive cover on the top and they don't slide. But here in our world, man, it is terrible. Also, mind the condition of the road. See how many bumps and different cracks it has. This is everything a potential risk to lose your traction. That's why you have to be very cautious of all of this, and this is way more easier if you reduce the speed. Now, for example, in good sunny days I can approach this corner with 100 kilometers per hour and slow down in last moment, but not now. Now I do it very gently, first of all because of all conditions that I already told you, secondly because someone even with a car might cut the corner from the other side because of the same reasons that I already told you. So all of this is a preventive riding style. You don't need to prove anything. You're not on a race. There is no person on the end of this road with a clock to count your time. It's only you and your riding experience. Even if you have ABS, traction control, distance controls, or anything that you can imagine today on the new motorcycles, does not automatically mean that you cannot crash. All of these features, they can help you just so much. After that, you will cross the line that will never be possible to go back. That's why always need to trust on your senses first, and that's why it's so important to learn how to ride properly without any of these systems. If you learn how to do it, if you know how to control a motorcycle without the systems, then when you switch to something better, new model with all of these systems, you can continue riding with the same preventive style, believing that you don't have any system on it. Then if for some reason you make a mistake, the systems will help you. I agree with this. But if you know how to ride on the first place, you should be able to ride even without any of these so-called adventure or safety features. If you use them all the time, if you believe on them so much, you might come to the situations like my friend, because he has a new motorcycle but recently switched to an old model, and with the old model he hasn't got any of these features, and probably this is one of the reasons why he slipped and missed the corner and broke his ankle. I'm not saying that it's exactly like that 100%, but this might be one of the reasons, because if you don't use a specific habits or specific techniques while you ride, you actually lose it. The brain is very clever. When you don't need something, it just deletes it. And everything that I'm telling you now is not only important when you ride around your hometown, when you commute or do some work around the town. It is way more important while you travel, because can you imagine to be in a foreign country in the middle of nowhere and to have a breakdown situation? This will ruin everything, will ruin your trip, will ruin your plans, everything will fall apart. That's why it's so important on the trips to be even more cautious than you're at home. So all of this has to be multiplied when you travel. In general, if you have the chance to avoid the rain, do it. As I said, there is nothing to be proven. If you can avoid the rain, do it. If your time and money allows you to skip a riding day because of the rain, do it. Sometimes I have heard even experienced riders saying that, oh, I love to ride in the rain. What exactly you love to ride in the rain? You don't have a proper traction, visibility is compromised, everything is compromised, you cannot have the same leaning angle, you cannot have the same stopping distance. What exactly you like to ride in the rain? If you still don't have a heated grips, man, please install one immediately, because these things are precious, especially in the days like this. Brand and model, doesn't matter, whatever you can afford and whatever you like, but install heated grips and you can thank me later. When you have the comfort, when you have a warm hands, it is much more easier to ride, because you can have more than enough clothes on your body, but you cannot really have many on your hands. And one more tip that I can give you right now, even if you have enough distance like I have now with the front car, always look for alternative roads, because sometimes you might see the car that is in front of you stopping in last moment, and as soon as you know that you're not gonna stop, find alternative roads, left or right. I learned this habit many years ago, because I was always riding terrible motorcycles that were not stopping really well. Even though now the Tenere is stopping very well, I still have this in mind, to have alternative road if I cannot stop. Because as I said, the ABS or the traction control, they can do just so much. After that, you're on your own. I know that many more things could be said on this topic, but I think that this is enough, a good reminder to all of us what is to ride in rainy or cold days. In the winter, in the snow, it's even more important to follow all of these advices. Anyway, if you like this type of videos, please let me know in the comment section below, and I will try to do at least once per week on different topics. Press like or dislike, whatever the video deserves. If you subscribe, even better. See you in the next one. Ciao.